Cops of Reddit, what's the most bullshit sounding excuse you got that actually turned out to be true?
Silent scan.
Had a domestic in progress I responded to during Christmas Day, and the excuse for them fighting was we're not mad at each other, we're just upset because we wanted to surprise the kids for Christmas. We got some deer, dressed them up, now they are destroying our house. Turns out there was literally 3 fully grown white-tailed deer in the house, somehow dressed with full bell harnesses like Santa's reindeer. I had to call the game wardens down, who were then able to help me remove the deer from the property without injury to us or them. How they managed to get the deer and dress them up is still a mystery to this day.
Silent scan.
One of the funnier ones that I remember. We got a call for a kid. He was 18 and a gang member, brandishing a firearm. He had pulled up his shirt pretending to brandish a firearm to intimidate somebody. The person calling only saw a holster. After we got there, he kept telling us it wasn't a gun but a dildo. We took him down at gunpoint, and he was right. He was walking around with a holstered, black dildo. Why? Because he could haha.
Silent scan.
My dad is an officer and he pulled someone over for speeding and running a red light, and they said their breast implant burst. He called IMS to rush them to the hospital, and turned out it did, and it's actually very dangerous if they leak. Do you know why I pulled you over? My boob exploded. One of the few occasions where calm your tits could be taken literally.
Silent scan.
I used to work as a military police officer. I was working at the main gate one night and this guy tried to come on base, but he didn't have any ID other than a driver's license, so I couldn't let him on. The guy told me that a general said he could come on, but he didn't have any proof of that, and he didn't know what the general's name was. It was also super late at night and he didn't seem to have any answers that would help us identify who he was. Long story short, the dude ended up being legit and was coming on base to be awarded a silver star the next day from that general.
Silent scan.
Popped a college kid for shitty driving and pulled 100 grams of weed off of him. Also, a 1-pound glass pipe shaped like a huge nail. No biggie. Also find weed under the other college kids in the car. Driver falls on the sword and tells me all of it is his and lets his friends walk free. I like this kid. However, during the search we find packaged D's in the cellophane of a cigarette pack with the top melted closed. God damn, it intensifies. Ask kid if has dealing a D's at school. Tell him I'm aware of the prescription pill epidemic. He says no and spins a huge yarn about how he only carries a few on him because has had his orange pill bottle stolen so many times. Kid seems like a pretty good dude. I decided to take the X-Files approach. Supervisor tells me pursue charges for dealing, blah blah blah. I tell the kid he has one chance to prove he's telling the truth. Shows me the broken glass under his driver's seat from a vehicle burglary. Gotta do better. I follow behind him back to his dorm. He lets me in and shows me the busted footlocker he kept them in under his bed. Dunno. Kinda weak. Supervisor's telling me to hurry and drop the axe. Tell him to do better. He calls one of the soccer team assistants up and we meet him in the locker room. Shows me the little wooden locker which has a broken lock. Assistant coach tells me they have replaced the lock on his cabinet 3 times. Campus security has numerous reports of medicine theft from this kid. Nice. I call supervisor up and tell him I have no grounds to pursue delivery charges. Poor bastard just kept getting his Adderalls jacked, and being the big dumb meatball he was, he started packaging them like that. I end up talking to his best friend breaking up a house party a couple months later. Friend tells me kid is a stand-up guy who only uses weed due to extreme anxiety. Totally believable from my interaction with him, and has never sold anything in his life. Friend thanked me and told me his buddy spoke well of me. Friend also tells me he had to drive his buddy to the hospital a few hours after I left from a panic attack due to the whole incident. I felt bad for the kid. So now, whenever I see him smoking up in his car in the mall parking lot, I just wave.
Silent scan.
My first ever real call was for a flasher at the local park. When I got there and finally found him, it was a mentally impaired young man 16 to 17 who had a pair of headphones on and a full Pooh Bear. I said, "Hey man, come here, what the hell is going on? You know you have to keep your pants on, especially at the park." He goes on to tell me he had bad itching down his pants and couldn't take it anymore, so he had to rip his pants off and was running home to get help. I said, "Come on, you couldn't make it home first?" He said, "No, I had ants in my pants." As sure as shit, according to more than one witness's account, he had been sitting in a sandbox playing at the park and accidentally on a nest of red ants that had crawled up his pant legs.
Silent scan.
I'm running booking one night. Guy gets brought in for possessing a truly stupendous amount of drugs. Him talking like 2 Rubbermaid toads full of shrooms, a huge bag of weed, and enough heroin to overdose half the county. Well, says he, I'm a informant, and they told me to make the drop so they could be there and raid the crap out of everybody and let me go for helping. Hurry. Face left please. Guy is like, I'm telling you dude, they're gonna be super pissed that you country retards fucked up their bust. Whatever, get in the holding cell and shut up. About 3 hours later 3 guys show up, D agents. They're super pissed that our deputies fucked up their bust. I go back to the holding cell to let the guy out, and he's just like, they're super pissed, huh? Yeah. Told you so.
Silent scan.
Mid-July in like 2008, young kid going 93 in a 55. I swing and he immediately pulls over. Approaching the car, his first words, before I can even start speaking, "My dog died, he hung himself. I gotta get back before my mom gets home." What? Anyway, he calls other family members. His aunt, uncle and 2 cousins come out to the stop, and between all their sobbing, they verify that the dog had actually hopped over the fence on a leash/runner and couldn't get back over. Everyone's crying now. They showed me a photo on their phone. Apparently they found the dog and called the kid at work and he just left. I didn't even bother verifying further than that. Cousin drove the kid's car back so they could take care of the dog and prepare for mom. Some said that I should have wrote him, but losing an animal sucks enough. He knew he fucked up, and adding financial burden to him wasn't going to help him or me.
Silent scan.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to get even more awesome content. Come on, it just takes 1 second. My dad was a cop and my favorite story of his goes like this. He's a young cop in a rough neighborhood. It's so late that the stoplights are flashing red, meaning treat it like a stop sign. Out of nowhere this pink caddy goes rolling through the intersection. My dad pulls him over. A big black dude was driving. The caddy had fur interior, dice in the mirror. A real pimp car, if you know what I mean. My dad goes, "Sir, do you know you ran that light back there?" And this guy says, "Officer, I do believe I got between the flashes." My dad was laughing so hard he had to let the guy go.
Silent scan.
Cop here, got a call of a domestic dispute that sounded very heated and a lot of banging was heard. Get to scene and I can hear someone yelling and swearing and brawling. Doesn't sound good at all. Guy answers the door, shirt off and angry, but seems bewildered as to why police had been called. He told me he was building IKEA furniture. Sounds like the most bullshit thing. But, we enter, see the new IKEA furniture half set up and no one else is home. Color me surprised.
Silent scan.
I was the one with the excuse. Forgot my keys at friend's place before going out drinking that night. Get home at 2 AM, no keys. Only one of our windows didn't have ghetto bars, so I took the screen out and starting pushing/smacking it up. Locks were on the sides only providing friction. As I'm halfway in, I just feel whump. Got tackled into the house. The officer was still outside, holding on to my ankles. I look up and just said, "I'm astonished by your response time. I actually live here. Let me get up, unlock the door, and give you my ID." So I did, and he stares at it for a second, then says sorry, and sprints off to look for the person they were actually in the area looking for.
Silent
Former Meriture, see here, look it up, it is a Dutch thing, police but also military. We also had jurisdiction over the American soldiers stationed here. One day we got called over to a possible case of domestic violence. We arrive at the house and the guy opened wearing only underwear. He told us he and his wife were all playing. Of course we didn't trust this and asked to see his wife. After denying us entry we told we would come back with a warrant. He reluctantly agreed to let us enter. So we go in and he opened the basement door and inside was the freakiest sex dungeon. I mean chains, whips, things I couldn't identify hanging on the wall. And in the middle hanging in chains was his butt naked, gagged wife. We asked her, but she told everything was okay. Turned out they were really into some kinky stuff. Asked them to keep the screaming part in the basement and to a minimal. We did the whole thing with a straight face, but as soon as we were in the car,
Silent scan.
there was a luggage mix-up at the airport, and he took the wrong luggage. He had to wear a suit that was too big. When I pulled him over, I saw a bag of white powder on the passenger seat. He said it wasn't his. We called the man who owned the luggage. It was his mother's ashes.
Silent scan.
We've had a doozy of a day, officer. There we were minding our own business. Making some improvements to our new vacation home. When all of a sudden these kids start killing themselves all over my property. Now, I don't know about how much experience you've had with this kind of thing, but me and Dale here, well, we ain't had any Tucker sauce.
Silent scan.
This still happens more often than you think. See cars driving very slow and very odd in the middle of the night. Like at store parking lots, churches, closed parks. Think they might be casing, or whatever, it's odd enough for a casual contact. Fucking Pokemon Go every time.
Silent scan.
Burning garbage bin next to the drugstore. Me, oh for fuck's sakes. Me, sees guy with blowtorch by garbage bin. I pull up and ask him why he set the garbage bin on fire. His response is ain't no other reason I did it other than I likes to burn stuff. Charged him for mischief and wrote a citation. Dude was honest at least, lol.
Silent scan.
That he got deported because he thought they wanted his ethnicity when the jail staff asked for his nationality. I verified his SSN and birth record and sure as shit he was telling the truth.
Silent scan.
Former airport customs officer here. I pulled a guy in for a bag search. Older guy, very proper looking, formally dressed, well-to-do, was a university professor from a European country. Before even opening a single bag, he was super agitated, rude, ranting about the injustice of being pulled in for a search, saying he knew important people would lodge a formal complaint etc etc. As the search pressed on was getting increasingly and inexplicably more volatile. Then I got to his last suitcase, and he went silent, almost kind of like he was defeated. I was thinking there's cocaine in there for sure. He's been trying to intimidate me into stopping the search from the start. He must have something illegal in there. Wrong. In that bag was the biggest black dildo I have ever seen in my life, like as long as my arm, along with a gym suit and various other BDSM accessories. All perfectly legal. We exchanged a knowing glance. I wrapped up my search and sent him on his way to wreak some serious havoc on the anuses of Sydney.
Silent scan.
Congratulations, you reached the end of this awesome video. Now, like and subscribe, like we talked earlier, come on.
Silent scan.